Kevin McCabe,
Present.
Austin Boloa,
Present.
Chip Anderson is excused, Michael Lucas.
Present.
All right. Committee member Lucas, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Does the committee have any adjustments to tonight's meeting agenda? All right, hearing no change to the agenda will stand. We'll move on to minutes. Does the committee have any adjustments to the April 16th meeting? Hearing no change, these minutes will stand as presented. Mr. Shaw, or Deputy Administrator Nygaard, do you have a staff report for us?
I will save my reports for further down in unfinished and new business. And she does not have a report.
All right. Public comment. Anybody wishes to speak? No one present. Next item of unfinished business. Mr. Shaw.
Yeah, thank you. So tonight's unfinished business is to just keep reminding the public, if they pay attention, that we'll be updating rates. And so I've been working with our new finance director, Wendy, and her intention is to bring a new rate proposal, the one that we've been working on, in front of the council in September.
Okay.
Because the budget was passed with rate increases, and so will have been July, August without new rates, and so we need to make those official so that revenue is closer to the budget. So you're going to see, and we talked about this before, but several years ago we worked through the rate increase process as the AAC, and then the master plan process had a financial review that proposed rate increases, and then we married those. The mayor and I married those together and came up with the mayor's proposal. The finance director is now taking that. There'll be a component where that goes into our Waterworth financial modeling program, and then it'll come back to the council for their review to rectify, the funding gap that we have. So that is my update. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to new business then. Runway 5,100 foot extension.
Yeah, thank you. So we've had some really great meetings with the FAA. You may recall that we talked about getting the letter from the FAA planner stating that the 5,100 foot runway extension is now AIP eligible, so Airport Improvement Plan eligible. They acknowledge that we could apply for grants to have them help us with that project, and so that's a massive hurdle that we've gotten across. We're very, very excited, and I think I've talked about this before, but the real linchpin on how that came about so quickly was the turboprop planes that are coming to the airport now are leaving heavier than they arrive because of all the shopping that they do at our stores. And so by explaining that to FAA, they see the safety issues with a plane that is not empty of that size trying to take off, especially in winter operations from our airport. So we're very excited about that. With that acknowledgement, we have a bunch of new people on the team. So we have an airport engineer who is meeting with us and kind of making sure that we understand how the process moves forward. She kind of reiterated what we already knew about how the property acquisition process should go. But we're just dotting our I's and crossing our T's as we move forward. And so we're very excited about that. And we also got clarification today on the process to route the congressionally directed spending that Senator Murkowski got for us through the FAA. And so we had been pinging them and saying, we know we've got this money coming. How do you see it? Where's it at? And so we got direction today on how to file for that. So that's brand new off the presses. We're very excited about that. And just a reminder, that's $3 million that goes to this project.
Awesome.
We have also started the environmental review that's required. So we had a public meeting last 2 weeks ago, I think, first week of August, at the Menard Center that kicked off the EA process, or environmental assessment, for the 6,000 foot runway. And so we had met with the FAA before that meeting to just make sure they felt comfortable with how we were explaining the project and kind of what our scope was, and how we explained to the public what we were doing. And so clarity came out that we can go through the EA process for the 6,000 foot runway, but they're going to support the alternative, which is the 5,100 foot runway, which is fine because we know we have to go in stages, but it helps the city be even more prepared for the next step from 5,100 to 6,000. So that permitting process is still very valid. There is a bit of a lifespan to it, about 5 years of lifespan once that's done. So, we still have our work cut out for us to continue to use that document to go from 5,100 to 6,000. But with Taxiway Kilo coming online and our marketing and just trying to stay as relevant as possible with the industry, we're feeling confident that we're on the right trajectory to get even more leaseholders on site that bolster those flights and build our case for that next leap to the ultimate of 6,000 feet. The contractor consultants are working through the timeline with FAA. They have given us some new dates. So our consultants have a little less time than we originally thought to get through the review documents and get FAA copies to make the next deadline. But the goal is still to have the EA done late spring, early summer of next year, so that it aligns with the next funding request period with FAA, so that we can go from the EA into a design grant that is mostly paid for by FAA. And then we have to be able to have that figured out so that they can put it into their spending request or the funding requests that the home office requires. And so they said, here's our deadline, and they work back the normal time it takes. And so our consultants are coordinating so that we know exactly how to stay on track. So we're very excited about that. Happy to answer any questions.
Move on then, if there's no questions, over to property, a resolution for continued property acquisitions.
All right, great. So the way I labeled this was discussion and possible action on a resolution of support for continued property acquisition purchases. And this has to do with the fact that we still need at least 11 parcels, and that, property values have gone up. So they're not inexpensive. And so the council's going to be asked to support those purchase agreements, and it would be really helpful if the Airport Advisory Commission feels comfortable with it, to provide them with a resolution of support saying, let's keep going, let's get this done. And so if the chair and the Advisory Commission are comfortable with it, I'd like to do a little workshopping. And so I'll jump up to the dais and I'll plug in my computer, and then I've created some wording, and I've made some whereas clauses, and we can just kind of talk about those. And if you feel comfortable with it, then someone would make a motion to make that resolution of support, and then I can read it into the record, and we'll get it, pretty much close, and then I'll get the official document typed up, and then we'll have the chair sign it. So,
Okay.
you all right with that?
Yep. All
Okay.
right with that.
what I thought I would do, and Mr. McCabe, pipe up if anything, if I'm not clear as I read it out, if you need any clarification since you can't see my screen. Before we get started, this is just a reminder of the properties that we're talking about. And so this is a map that we've talked about before and that I've shared with the council. The black trapezoid is the current RPZ, runway protection zone, right? The green trapezoid is the 5,100 foot RSA that we have to have. And the orange is the 6,000 foot RSA that we have to have. These properties that lie in different segments have different colors. So the salmonish red color are properties that we've already purchased. So 2, 3, 4 are the Gardner's properties. 6, 7, 11, 12, 13, 14 were AK View properties that were sold to developers, and then we bought them. So there's some development, there's some foundations there still, there's some wells, there's some septic tanks. And then the rest of these blue areas are still owned by AK View, and we have sent them an offer, and they came back with a counter offer, but we have not accepted the counteroffer because it's too far apart funding wise, and we're just not there yet. And then this number one parcel is the Marcinek parcel, and so we were looking at, do we just need a navigation easement or do we want to acquire it? And FA wants us to acquire it, so we have just received the appraisal and forwarded on to them. And then 20 is the one that we've talked about before. This one, and the reason there's dots on here, this one is highlighting airspace obstructions that exist currently on 20 for the 5,100 foot runway. So this is to explain to the council that we can't even move on the 5,100 foot runway if we don't come up with a solution for those obstructions. And some of them are structure obstructions, tips of the roof on the existing homes. And if that property goes into subdivision development, there'll be an additional 12 to 14 homes that'll all be too tall. And so this is one of those go or no go moments for the council. And that's why I'm asking for support for a resolution from you all tonight, so that it's clear what would need to happen to keep on this trajectory. And then the purple section is another parcel, the Groomer parcel that has obstructions as well. It's less because of the topography. It's less impacted, but there's enough in there that it may end up being a partial acquisition in the purple area. We haven't gone that far yet because parcel 20 has taken all of our attention as we work with the property owner, because they have timelines and they've, it's critical. So we've made that our prime focus. With that, I'd like to share some of the whereas clauses that ChatGPT and I came up with. And if it's all right with the body, we can move to the resolutions. Let's see.
Yeah, I'd like to continue with that.
Yeah, I'm going to. Okay, let's see. So the title of the resolution I'm proposing is a resolution of the Wasilla Airport Advisory Commission supporting the continued appropriation of funding for the voluntary acquisition of private property and related professional services needed to implement the Wasilla Municipal Airport Master Plan and facilitate the extension of runway 422. So I think the title's pretty clear. Are there any questions or concerns from the advisory commission on that title?
You good with that? No questions?
Okay,
We're
great.
good?
And then I was kind of alluding to the benefits, so I'll just read a couple more. Whereas the FAA and community approved Wasilla Municipal Airport Master Plan identifies the extension and rehabilitation of runway 422 with from approximately 3,700 feet to an initial length of 5,100 feet and an ultimate length of 6,000 feet, and continued implementation of the master plan is necessary to protect the city's planning investments and meet the airport's long-term safety and operational needs. And whereas the FAA has determined that the 5,100-foot runway extension is eligible for airport improvement program funding, and the city has funded the environmental assessment evaluating the proposed 6,000-foot runway and the 5,100-foot runway evaluated as an alternative to support the environmental review and the future FAA decisions required to advance the project. And whereas approximately 11 private parcels remain to be acquired at an estimated cost of, I'm going to change that to 7 million. I did it back of napkin, so it's closer to 7. And a time voluntary acquisition is necessary to prevent incompatible development and new obstructions from future runway approach and glide slope areas that could substantially increase future acquisition costs and complicate or jeopardize implementation of the airport master plan. And whereas the city has already made substantial investments in property acquisition, airport planning, professional acquisition service, and environmental review, and city-funded property acquisition costs may, subject to FAA eligibility and approval, qualify for future reimbursement or be credited toward the city's required local match for eligible runway project. And then I wanted to add in some of the economic developments. So, whereas extending runway 422 will improve the Wasilla Airport's ability to safely and reliably accommodate larger and more capable aircraft within the FAA B2 Airport Reference Code, expanding the opportunities for aviation commerce, business investment, job creation, and economic activity within the city of Wasilla. Or whereas the city investments in Apron E and Taxiway Kilo have already helped attract new aviation businesses that have relocated or prepared to relocate to the Wasilla Municipal Airport, demonstrating the continued airport improvements generate private investment, employment opportunities, and increased commercial activity. And or whereas completing the planned runway extension together with the city's recent investments in Apron E and Taxiway Kilo will allow the airport to better accommodate B2 aircraft and support continued growth of aviation-related business, bringing additional commerce, jobs, enterprise, and private investment to the city of Wasilla. Or lastly, whereas several new businesses have relocated or prepared to relocate to the Wasilla Municipal Airport following the construction of Apron E and Taxiway Kilo, and continued implementation of the airport master plan is necessary to build upon the economic momentum and ensure the airport can meet the operational needs of current and future tenants. So ChatGPT likes options 1 or 4. With reading that verbatim so that Mr. McCabe could hear too. Are there any points that we missed? Any supportive things that you want?
It covers the base of it all,
Okay.
showing our economic growth, what we can develop, and what's already there.
Mm-hmm.
I see no objections about
No
it.
objections.
Okay. So how about I propose that we use the whereases that I read up before. So this body here, and then we choose one of the economic ones. So I like the first one. Extending runway 422 will improve the Wasilla Municipal Airport's ability to safely and reliably accommodate larger and more capable aircraft, expanding opportunities for aviation commerce, business investment, job creation, economic activity within the city of Wasilla. Is there a different option that the
That one aligns pretty good with what the city's goals are.
okay. So what I'll do is I'll make a final document here. And I'll just paste this whereas here. And then I'll go up and I'll grab these other whereases. I'll grab the whole thing. And then I'll put the therefore down here. So, if you'll indulge me, I'll read this one last time, and then if you are supportive of it, then someone would make a motion to to send this resolution to the council, and then we'll make it happen. So hang on one sec. Page width. Okay. All right, title, a resolution of the Wasilla Airport Advisory Commission supporting the continued appropriation of funding for the voluntary acquisition of private property and related professional services needed to implement the Wasilla Municipal Airport Master Plan and facilitate the extension of runway 422. Whereas the FAA and community-approved Wasilla Municipal Airport Plan identifies the extension and rehabilitation of runway 422 from approximately 3,700 feet to an initial length of 5,100 feet and an ultimate length of 6,000 feet, and continued implementation of the master plan is necessary to protect the city's planning investments and meet the airport's long-term safety and operational needs. And whereas the FAA has determined that the 5,100-foot runway extension is eligible for airport improvement program funding, and the city has forward funded an environmental assessment evaluating the proposed 6,000-foot runway with the 5,100-foot runway evaluated as an alternative to support the environmental review and future FAA decisions required to advance the project. And whereas approximately 11 private parcels remain to be acquired at an estimated cost of $7 million. Oh my gosh, come on, computer. $7 million, and a timely voluntary acquisition is necessary to prevent incompatible development and new obstructions within the future runway approach and glide slope areas that could substantially increase future acquisition costs and complicate or jeopardize implementation of the airport master plan. And whereas the city has already made substantial investments in property acquisition, airport planning, professional acquisition services, and environmental review, and city-funded property acquisition costs may, subject to FAA eligibility and approval, qualify for future reimbursement or be credited towards the city's required local match for eligible runway project. Whereas extending runway 422 will improve the Wasilla Municipal Airport's ability to safely and reliably accommodate larger and more capable aircraft within the FAA B2 Airport Reference Code, expanding opportunities for aviation commerce, business investment, and job creation and economic activity within the city of Wasilla, and therefore be it resolved that the Wasilla Airport Advisory Commission supports and recommends the city council continue appropriating funds as voluntary property negotiations are successfully completed for the acquisition of the remaining properties needed to implement the airport master plan and for the associated appraisal, negotiation, environmental review, documentation, and other professional services necessary to comply with the FAA requirements and advance the runway 422 extension project.
Eric, should we add the year of the airport plan?
We could do that.
Just so everybody is clear what year that airport.
Let me see where I can do that. Of the 2026 master
Yeah.
plan? Okay. So we'll just make it clear in the first whereas statement that we're talking about the 2026 master plan. Any questions?
No, works for me.
So we'll need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to send this resolution to the city council.
Second.
He'd ask if there's any objections.
Any objections to that? Hearing no objections.
Great. So what I'll do is take this document, we'll get it all tuned up. We'll have the chair sign it next couple days.
Yep.
And then I'll write up a little agenda statement that will go to the council.
Okay.
And just explain that we talked about it at the Airport Advisory Commission meeting, and that, and I'll mention it because it probably won't be taken up, it can't be taken up on Monday because the timing is closed, but I'll get it to them so they can see it, and then I'll mention it on Monday's meeting because I'll have a meeting update that you all helped craft it and that it passed unanimously. Um, any other questions on that?
I have no questions.
No questions. I'll just stay here for the rest of the.
Okay. Moving on to operations updates, Mr. Shaw.
Thank you. So, we're still working out there in Taxiway Kilo. The bulk hauling has paused for a bit. They will start bringing in their structural fill in a little bit, but right now they're mostly focusing on utilities. So they're running the new water line up the new access road. So that's going pretty well. They also had to over excavate some areas in the closer to the taxi lane that's going to come off the runway because they found some unsuitable materials. So they did that at a unit price, and we'll be bringing to the council a change order because there'll be a bit of a cost overrun for that. I'll be bringing them a map showing where that is. It's trying to remember what the estimate is. It's a little over $300,000, I think. But we couldn't leave that material in the structural section. They just found pockets of bad material that they couldn't see when they were doing the original geotech. So that was going well. And then they're still on general schedule to be done by the end of this fall. We have what's called an interim work authorization within the contract so that we have the flexibility to make those decisions and keep them moving. And so when we had to expand the material storage area, and we knew that in the middle of the bid, but we didn't want to change the bid. So as soon as the bids are opened and we selected the low bid contractor, we had to go into negotiations to address the storage area while we also got the permit review. And so the council approved the extra money, but while we waited, we had to go through an official cost reduction with the contractor because we can't be out of balance with what work we've approved them to do and how much funding we have. So we had pulled back the water line and the paving and said, if council doesn't allow us to add money to the project, then we just can't pave and we can't add the water line. So thankfully council approved the money, so the project went back to its original size. And then we found those materials as they got digging deeper. And so we did basically the same thing. We figured out what work at the end of the project could be cut if the contract doesn't have money added to it. We're hopeful that the council will continue to provide the extra funding so that the project's complete. The bids were so low that we had extra programmed monies. So, and especially in this area, it's all FAA eligible. It's in the structural section of the FAA portion. Whereas if it was where the lease lots would go, then it would be our own cost. But this all happened out in the taxiway and such. So it'll be 24% of our cost and 76% of FAA's. And then we had a runway incursion. I think it was the first week of August. There was a person, a female, who had been near the D gate and was acting erratically, and a hangar operator called the police and said something's funny. So the police showed up and addressed this person and told them to move along, and impounded a car that was probably theirs, but they weren't in it, and didn't have any connection to it. So they impounded that car and then told this person to move on. And that person walked around the aviation road for a while and then entered a couple of businesses and kind of caused some problems, and then kind of disappeared from view, and then ended up making it into the airport somehow. And then I saw them walk across the runway at about 11:30 on the new cameras. And so some of our staff was out there doing crack sealing, and so they responded and helped her off the runway, the active runway with airplanes landing and such. And then the police arrived because she had been trespassed from the interactions earlier that morning. And so she was taken offside by the police. One of the things that's come from that is we're going to be adding more cameras because there was a blind spot on one of the original gates that just doesn't have enough coverage. So I'm working with our IT department to figure out how to upgrade a couple cameras and get some more views out there. And we're looking at adding another new camera that will match the capabilities of the one that's right by the fuel station. It's an extremely versatile pan, tilt, zoom camera that you can zoom way, way, way in. It has really nice quality. So I want to have that capabilities in the Apron E area so that we have better oversight for strange things like that. Thankfully, no one was injured. I let the FAA know, and they responded and that they received it, but I haven't had any other contact with them on that. Like I said, it's been a very busy summer with me with FAA, with them finally giving us approval that the runway extension meets AIP standards. So I'm very excited about that. We also have been very busy, lots of visitors, transients, very full. So that's kind of my operations update.
Thank you. No, it's definitely been an uptick on the airport this year. A lot more activity, a lot more phone calls overall. So it's a good thing we're getting ahead of the extension.
So was that the person, were they camping out of their car over by where Airforms was?
They may have been. I don't know how long they were there before someone called it in. Oh, I guess one thing to mention is that FAA was very happy that, a leaseholder called in that situation, because we want our users to be vigilant, call in strange behaviors. It was unfortunate that she stayed in the area instead of leaving and causing more trouble for everybody. But FAA was very thankful of how everyone responded.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Mr. McCabe.
Yeah, so it's Commissioner McCabe. So I think what Eric's report just demonstrated is reinforces the need for an airport manager. He has a huge responsibility as a public works director in Wasilla, and a lot more going on than maintaining security and cameras and fences and everything dealing with the FAA and everything else. And I think it just reinforces the idea that we've been discussing for a couple years about having an airport manager as we grow to 6,000 feet with more transit people, more turboprop airplanes, and more possibilities of bigger jets and bigger equipment. It's going to be incumbent on the city to further develop the management infrastructure of the airport. So I don't know if Eric wants to do it or how we do it, but I think we need to recommend that there be some sort of a idea on how much it's going to cost, what the structure would look like, what other similar, bigger, larger, now that we're going to be larger airports, look like, and how much it costs, and what are the pitfalls of not having somebody out there. And I think this Eric's report right now just amply demonstrates what happens. I mean, the public works director, who knows where he could be at any one time, and he gets called out to the airport for a runway incursion. That should totally be an airport manager kind of thing. So anyways, just my 2 cents. I think we need to continue as a commission to focus on how we're going to deal with the management of the airport itself.
I completely agree with that topic. That's a topic that goes hand in hand with more traffic at that airport.
Yep. And I think that's definitely something that the council will want to hear from your roles as the finance director brings those cost increases to them. So.
Okay.
Do you want to? you want to do public comment? Okay. Just double checking.
Yeah.
I don't have any other staff reports or comments. Did you have anything you want to say?
I just wanted to give a few updates. You talked about the $3 million appropriation from Murkowski. That's specific to the runway expansion. So that can be used for a number of things to get the runway expanded. We are also completing what they call an economic contribution impact analysis. It's something that has been done at Merrill Field and Palmer, and it's basically demonstrating the impact that every dollar that comes from the airport is contributing to our local economy. And so some of the preliminary tools they've developed for us and we've looked at is we know that more than 50% of the people coming into the airport go to AIH, they go to Wendy's, they go to Lowe's and Fred Meyer's. And so that those dollars are going all throughout our community. We will have that published by the end of September. We do have a survey out. I know that we sent it out to all the businesses at the airport. It'd be really good if you could get your customers to fill that out just to show that they may be coming in from another part of the state, doing some shopping and then leaving with goods and commerce. That would be really helpful to make that analysis complete. Eric and I have been funneling phone calls that have been coming in from different types of manufacturers that are looking at the airport as potential places to house their business. One is a housing type of company.
Factory.
Kind of like a housing factory. We've had one for resource development as a value added component. We've also had somebody interested in T-hangers, constructing those that would look really nice. So the word is out and we're getting a lot of calls, which is great. We also got a call from Alaska Regional Interior Defense, AR. I can't remember what the AR stands for. Basically, it was a compilation of everything that this area could contribute to a significant amount of money that's coming from DC for defense in Fairbanks, but also they wanted to get all of the information for our airport to be a component of that as a strategic alliance with them. So we really appreciate all your support and love talking to all the businesses that are coming here, and we're in a very good place at a good time. Thanks.
I'd speak to that too on T-hangers. I've actually been approached by a few people that have asked questions, and I will be bringing them to you, Mr. Shaw, they actually already have a couple plans and some stuff. So,
Yep, great.
Any other comments for the night?
No comments.
Okay, would you have anything else, comments for the night?
Yeah, if you're looking for McCabe, sorry, you're a little bit garbled on my cell phone, but I'd just like to offer my prayers and thoughts with Security Aviation tonight and their incident in Western Alaska. It appears to be pretty significant. Might be something we all want to pray about tonight. So, other than that, I appreciate Eric's work and the work on the right-of-way purchases. And I want to make sure that the public understands that this is just the beginning. It's just the start. We're just recommending something. There are so much more to go do this. So it's not like we're going to go in and grab a bunch of houses. There's lots of public comment, lots of input, lots of community input. So this is just our recommendation. So with that, I appreciate the opportunity, and thanks, Ashley, for queuing me up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Hearing no other business then tonight, I would come to the committee to be adjourned.